Alright, so I just finished editing this wedding and I have filmed some of it and done some screen recording, and yeah, I'm just going to go over. I put a post up the other day and I've got heaps of questions from you guys, which I really appreciate. So I think what I'm going to do is make two videos. This one is going to be more answering each one of your questions. I'm going to show you guys step by step what I do. And then I'm going to make a few other videos, so like a new workflow, like an overall workflow from getting home and importing everything, editing, how I store it, exporting and all that kind of stuff, and a few other ones. But first I'm going to go over all the questions and answer them one by one. So Kyle says, an editing workflow would be awesome. Do you use Photoshop or keep it mainly to Lightroom? I very rarely use Photoshop. I would say most weddings I never use Photoshop, and some weddings maybe for like 2 or 3 photos I'll use Photoshop. If I need to swap out a head, like if someone was blinking and I need to take a face from one photo and put it into another one, then I'll use Photoshop sometimes. Or if there's like a removal that I've got to do, because the one in Lightroom sucks, the removal tool, spot healing or whatever it's called. So sometimes I'll use Photoshop for that. But otherwise, I just keep it mainly to Lightroom. Michael says, 1, how you select photos. 2, how do you decide the look for the day. And 3, your editing process. So they are very different videos on big subjects. But I use PhotoMechanic to cull all my photos. And I'm really, really super ruthless with the ones I choose. I don't mess around. I'm just going through real fast. With my keyboard, I just use my keyboard with PhotoMechanic, and I just 1-star everything, so that way I can just go through and I'm like tap 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 on the arrow key. Almost done. I've just got to cull my second shooter's photos now. I look like, and just pressing 1-star, and then I can go back and just press 0 if I don't want to select it. So yeah, I use PhotoMechanic to do that. I'm really ruthless, so I only keep what I think is really good, and I usually end up with about 700, 800 photos, sometimes a little bit more. I definitely don't want more than 1,000 photos from a full day wedding, and there's reasons for that. Mostly I just think it's too much. It's unnecessary. It makes it more difficult for couples to go through and choose what they want. And honestly, if you have 1,000 photos, you probably have like 5 of the same shot multiple times, you know what I mean? Like that's what I was doing in the past, and you would have 5 of the same shot with a very slightly different hand position or a slightly different facial expression or something like that. In my opinion, you're better off just to choose 1 or 2 and give it to them. They don't need 5 of the same photo. It just makes it a hassle. And yeah, but that's just my opinion. That doesn't mean it's right. That's just what I do. And I hate culling. Culling is the worst part of my job. Editing is fine. I love shooting. I love the actual wedding day. Editing is fine because it's quite fast now with my process. And yeah, just culling, I don't even know why I hate it, but I just hate it with a passion. And how I decide the look, like I said, I use my presets. Obviously, you guys all know that, and they do work really well. And usually I use CTM3 for most weddings because it just seems to fit nicely, and I don't want my website, if I'm putting a wedding on my website, I don't want them to all look really different. I want them to all be consistent, so I try and stick with editing process or preset that works really well along the board, and CTM3 usually does that for me. But I said it before, sometimes I'll use CTM1 or CTM6, I think it is, the mild one, depending on where I am in the country, or if I'm shooting a wedding in Melbourne or something. Sometimes the light is quite different and a different preset will work for that, but I will use that one preset for the entire wedding, so I'm not jumping around different styles. Saying that, most of my presets do kind of sync with each other. As long as you're using one for an entire scene of a day, then you should be okay. Because the presets are really, I don't like using the word because it sounds pretentious, but timeless. And all I mean by timeless is they're not going to expire. They're not a real heavily styled preset. It's just true to life with a slight filmy tone to them, really nice skin tones, and they just make the greens a little bit more pleasant for me anyway, personally. But Yeah, it's not a real, you know, a lot of presets you buy are like really warm, or they just kill the greens or whatever, and I feel like those are kind of styles that are going to eventually expire. They might look really cool right now, but if a couple's looking at their photos in 10 years time, they might think, oh, why did they edit it like that? And you don't want that. It's about consistency and just accuracy. And my editing process, I'll throw a bit of it up now, but I do use the Loupedeck CT, and I just fly through and edit really fast. So usually I'll go to the first photo, this is after I've culled everything, and then I'll edit that first photo with the preset, and then I'll sync the entire set, you know, like Command A to select all photos, all 700 whatever photos I have, and then Command Shift S to sync the entire settings. And I'm syncing everything other than like white balance and exposure, which then I go through every photo with the Loupedeck and convert them. But like I said, I will make other videos, like a more in-depth one, or maybe do a live session. I find live sessions don't really work because I have viewers all over the world, and just all the different time zones make it a little bit difficult. But I will do more of them. Ryan has a good question saying white balance consistency tips would be good. White balance is definitely a tricky one, and you definitely have to be consistent. I tend to use auto because I find it works most of the time, and if light changes it kind of adjusts a little bit, especially with the later model Sony cameras like the A9 Mark II and A7R4 and stuff. I find the white balance in auto pretty accurate, but using the Loupedeck really does help. They do. I have to tell you guys as well, before I keep going on about it, they did send me the Loupedeck for free to review. It was quite an expensive unit, and I don't know if I would have bought it, you know, knowing the price without actually using it, but after using it I don't think I could live without it now. But I wouldn't buy the Loupedeck CT if I was spending my own money on it. I would buy the Loupedeck Live, because I only use that top portion of the Loupedeck for, you know, all my editing anyway, and it's quite a bit cheaper and smaller and all that. So my advice is buy the Loupedeck Live. The Loupedeck allows me to just use the dials and keep my eyeballs on the screen, so I don't have to keep, you know, looking at the slider and seeing where my mouse is and all that. I can just adjust it, and I find I get really accurate results doing it that way, because I'm just always looking at the screen. My eyes aren't coming off it. So yeah, it tends to work really well doing it that way. And usually also what I'll do, say if I'm editing a ceremony, I will, you know, get the white balance right on the first few photos, and then once I'm happy I'll sync that entire scene with the white balance, and then I just have to go through and make tiny tweaks, but I know I'm not changing anything drastically, so there's going to be consistency there. I'll never sync white balance across the entire wedding set because that's just crazy. It just changes too much through the day. But yeah, you can look ahead and sync multiple scenes with white balance. Matthew says, what about your equipment? Maybe talk about the mundane cleaning and other issues. Would be interesting as a peek behind the scenes. Maybe that's another cool video I could do. But yeah, usually after a wedding, actually I'm lying, usually after a wedding my gear will just sit wherever it is unless I have one the next day. But just for example, say I have one wedding that week on the Saturday and nothing else, usually I'll come home, I'll have all my photos backed up in 2 places before I even go to bed, and then my camera gear will just sit wherever it is until I need to get it ready for the next job. But yeah, I do have a cleaning kit, so I use like a toothbrush and a blower and some microfiber cloths, and I will every couple of weeks go through and clean my cameras. I actually need to do a sensor clean on them soon, but I've already done a video on that, which you can see on my channel. But yeah, I just generally maintain them. I don't do anything amazing. I've never sent them in for repair or like calibration or whatever. You know, before I was a full-time photographer, collecting gear was kind of a fun hobby of mine. I think everybody goes through that, but now they're really just tools, and you know, I would maintain my tools like a builder would maintain his tools, I guess. But yeah, maybe I'll make a video on just going through all my crap and cleaning it up and putting it all away. That might be fun. How long would it take for a full gallery? I've got 4 to do this week. That's from Beth and Tom. I edited today's wedding in about 2 hours, Yeah, about 2 hours I edited the entire thing. When I say that, it sounds kind of crazy, but it really is down to my presets and using the Loupedeck. A lot of you guys following along are using my presets, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. And yeah, the Loupedeck really speeds things up a lot. Noah says, I'd love to see some details on how you pose and decide what poses to use and when and all that. Posing is a big subject, and I don't really pose in the traditional sense. I have put a video up, quite a couple of videos actually on doing this. So I'll put that up in the description or up here in the tag or whatever so you can see. But I will make another one for sure. I'm planning on doing some of those soon. How I market my business from Nelson. I'm doing some more videos on that currently. Hoping to help you guys out with that kind of subject as well. Hybrid shooting, the workflow on when to do videos and when to take pictures. I've actually already done a video on that also, but I will make another one and update you guys on that. Bradley had a good one saying how you present the finished product to the client. Would be good to know, i.e. share online, gallery, simple USB pen, etc. I don't use USB sticks at all. Everything is online now for me. I will give a USB stick if they really want it. And I don't charge anything extra for that. I just do it. I mean, USB sticks are, I don't know what, $10 or $15 for a high-speed one. So I'll just do that and give it to them. But usually it's just all online because I use Pixieset. It looks really nice. It's really easy to download images for the clients. And yeah, they download the full, you can download the entire set in like one zip file quite easily. So yeah, I just use Pixieset. I'll show you guys what that looks like over this video so you can see for yourself. But yeah, it's just a really nice looking gallery. It's not the cheapest thing in the world, like a monthly cost, but if you're a business, it's totally fine and totally doable. Actually, that just reminds me, I should do a video on my studio management software. I use Studio Ninja, and it's definitely not perfect. It has its bugs, and I don't use all the features because of its bugs. But yeah, I'll make a video on that as well. I think that would be helpful for you guys. I usually shoot weddings in RAW, but my friend shoots JPEG because of the smaller file size. Will it make a noticeable difference when it comes to post-processing? Yes. I would never, ever, ever shoot JPEG on a wedding. I don't even think that's a discussion. I'm sorry. I just don't see any reason. I mean, yeah, because of the file size or whatever, but just buy bigger memory cards. I mean, you're being paid to shoot a wedding. You should be able to shoot RAW. Yeah. My opinion, you should never be shooting JPEG at a wedding. That's pretty much it. There's a lot of repeat questions and stuff, but yeah, there's a good pattern about what you guys want to see. So this wedding's almost finished exporting now. Yeah, I'm sorry if this video dragged on a bit or if it's a bit boring. You guys let me know in the comments if it is boring. Otherwise, yeah, I'll make another one soon. See you soon.